Hey, Catalyst, when was the last time you were triggered? Think back. Maybe you're in a coffee house and it's nice and calm and quiet. You can hear the soft jazz until somebody starts chewing ice with their teeth very loudly. Or maybe it's the last time you booked a flight and you were looking forward to listening to your audiobook until a newborn baby started shrieking for 5 entire hours. Listen, we all get triggered, right? Good. This episode is about why being triggered can invite you to know yourself deeper and make you a more catalytic practitioner who can carve out their work-life masterpiece with more ease. Stick around to the end because I will give you 4 ways that being triggered can help you learn to know yourself better. Welcome to The Catalyst Way, the podcast for women clinicians ready to clear the chaos and create space to flourish. I'm Dr. Lara Salyer, a former burned-out family practice doctor turned mentor, author, and professional calendar whisperer. I help women in medicine reclaim time, trust their intuition, and build practices that actually fit their lives. Each week, you'll get practical tools, creative strategies, and tiny shifts that help you color outside the lines and paint a work-life masterpiece of authentic, aligned joy. This episode brought to you by a recent patient visit that I had. Of course, I'm protecting her identity by changing a lot of details, but you may recognize this common story because in functional integrative medicine, we have a lot of opportunity to work with patients around behaviors and around triggers. One of the biggest triggers is food. We use food for comfort. It's sociologically and culturally normal for us to reach to comforting foods. It helps increase serotonin, helps us kind of give us a little dopamine. And sometimes our food of choice isn't the healthiest. Let's be honest. I don't think any of us are craving broccoli when we feel stressed. It's usually a Snickers or maybe some kind of really sweet, syrupy, caffeinated beverage or salty chips. In my patient's case, it was the sweet, right? The sugar. When things get tough, when you feel stressed, maybe job stress, kids stress, road rage, you start to feel like you want something sweet, just a little reward because adulting is hard enough, right? So triggers sometimes don't have to be these big things. They can be small things. And what's interesting is that your limbic system, that central part of your body that is regulating emotions, doesn't always do a good job regulating your emotions. It's ready to have a quick fix. As practitioners, we're so used to helping patients understand triggers and deal with food cravings and learn to eat better. But we forget that that same advice can help us become better clinicians and practitioners. And here's how. In the example of my patient, she would reach towards a sweet treat whenever she felt stressed. And unfortunately, that practice, that habit became easier and easier the more she enforced it, right? Like, the Webbian phrase of the neurons that fire together, wire together. So the more she was able to have that food on hand or pass by that fast food store and say, well, I'm going to go ahead and grab some fries or a shake. And I've had a bad day. Suddenly the food was a reward for a bad day, but then it also became a reward for a good day. And suddenly it's meaningless. And we're just sort of soothing ourselves, our raw limbic system with these sweet treats. And we know what happens with that. Your cortisol rises, you give these messages to your body of more inflammation, which makes you more likely to feel triggered because you're not balanced, you're not grounded. You're really not fueling yourself with the most nourishing nutrients. Thing is our limbic system does not listen to our cognitive brain, right? We think in our prefrontal cortex all day long, and we store memories in our hippocampus. But there is an important part of our brain, that amygdala, which is like the air traffic control looking across the land. And if it had its choice, it would like to protect you and keep you safe. It would love to put those ice chewers and that newborn kid in a completely different airplane or coffee shop. That's not possible. So what we need to do is train our amygdala, train our triggers, sit with them and get to know them. Because as we do that, we become more tapped into flow, tapped into our inner creativity, and we get to know ourselves better by delaying that response time, which is what I talked about with our patient, having her sit with that discomfort. The more adept we are at sitting in discomfort, the more successful we are overall in every aspect of life. So our limbic system, again, is just trying to keep us safe. And sometimes we need to send the message to it that we are safe. And the only way we can start doing that is looking at our inner physiology. In functional medicine, we usually start with some kind of a gut rehabilitation program. At least I do with my patients. And that invites their physiology into a whole new dynamic that some of them maybe not have felt before. I mean, I live in Wisconsin. We're the land of beer and brats. So not many people are gluten-free or dairy-free. When you ask them to do that temporarily, I think 100% of them have come back and said, wow, I didn't know that food could taste this good, or I didn't realize that my internal physiology could run this seamlessly and painlessly. It's a really wonderful opportunity to investigate how food can impact us. But it doesn't stop there. As we nourish our bodies with healthy options and we lower our inflammation, yes, it will help overall. It also helps lower our triggers. We become less stressed. But we're all human. We're going to get triggered. And some days it is just the perfect storm. Maybe it's a full moon. Maybe you're on your cycle. Maybe all 3 kids are home and they're just talking a little louder than usual. And it just sends you over the edge. So next time that happens, sit with that. Take a deep breath and try to resist reacting. As I mentor functional and integrative practitioners, we often talk about the need for us to have the right answer. I mean, after all, patients are seeking out our expertise and we feel that we want to deliver high quality, high touch care. So we often react. We react to the portal messages right away to give the answer. We react to fitting them in our schedule. We react to discovery calls by lowering our price or apologizing for how much our services are. We think we have to have our website perfect or our membership model figured out from day one or social media on point. And guess what? The more you sit with that discomfort of not having it all figured out and giving yourself permission to notice how that feels in your body, you train up this wonderful grit of self-efficacy and limbic system trust that you're going to be okay, even if it feels uncomfortable. Quick pause. If you're loving this podcast and secretly dreaming about building a functional or integrative practice that doesn't burn you out, you're my person. Catalyst Studio is the 12-month mentorship for women clinicians who want to build or scale a membership style practice. We mix practical business strategy with creativity and flow so that you can build a thriving practice that actually fits your life. Come join us. It is the mentorship I wish I had had. You'll find all the information at drlarasalyer.com/catalyst. This is what I love about the kind of medicine and healthcare that we are changing across the world as catalysts. Inside my mentorship program, I have all sorts of licenses, all sorts of beautiful women that are really passionate about changing healthcare. And we have these kinds of conversations routinely in our studio time masterminds every Friday, where for 90 minutes we come together. It's like crowdsourcing, You don't have to sit in that discomfort very long for not knowing what decision you need to make in your business because you've got a whole collective of other women practitioners that you can bounce ideas off of or get advice or ask, how did you do this? And maybe that applies to me, as well as the one-on-one mentoring. And I think that is just a human thing we all need. We need community. We need to know we're not alone, that, oh my gosh, this feeling in my body of being triggered is such a primal response and anticipated, milestone that we all have daily. But also, it doesn't have to be as sharp and pungent. And sharing that kind of fear and triggering with other people can help you heal that as you see patterns and patterns of others doing things differently and how you can start to expand your window of tolerance. And it starts with something simple as recognizing the pattern. So all of us can do that right now. Just like I had my patient write this down. What exactly triggers you? Some triggers might be a 10 out of 10 where this is always going to trigger me. Some might be a 1 out of 10. Maybe it will only trigger you in the right circumstance, right? Think of a crowded room that's noisy. For me, that's already annoying to me, so that anything else beyond that would probably trigger me to want to recede or put earplugs in or move myself to a different room more than other times. So recognizing that pattern of what are some highly triggering things in your business? What do you see on a daily basis that just makes you cringe or roll your eyes or take a deep sigh? Write that down. Write those things down. You can't fix what you don't measure. You can't fix what you don't identify. So be honest and sit with that discomfort and start keeping a list of all these triggering things so that we can help you. The second thing is pausing during that discomfort before reacting. I had my patients set a timer. Pause and see how long you can wait before you reach for that snack or before you reach for an answer or you open up Chat GPT and ask it how to make this recipe. That's my thing. I love chat for recipes. But how long can you pause and sit in that discomfort? Those of us that enjoy meditation or have a meditation practice are training up that just by meditating. We all know that our brain wanders, and the goal of meditation is not to have an empty mind. The goal of meditation is to distance yourself from that reactivity, is to observe you observing yourself having thoughts. That's meditation. So if you're looking for a way to help train this up, meditation might be for you. And finally, repeating a new response is how you retrain this. So instead of, in this patient's example, I was telling her, we may not be able to have you completely take out sugar, but what about instead of grabbing a sweet treat next time, grab a sweet treat, but also pair it with protein. That's something you can do that will help diminish that glucose load. It will help soften that blow of the glucose and cortisol, running through your veins. And at least it's some little step in the right direction. So you have protein or fat that can help that glucose digest much slower. For you, if you have a business and you're reacting, think about what's a new pattern. Maybe you dump your triggers and what you're thinking on a list or in a Google document, or maybe there's like a bucket on your desk and you write it on a paper and you put it in the bucket. Some pattern interrupt that helps you rewire a new way. And I'm going to add a fourth step, which is reflect. Reflect on what caused you to be triggered. Not just the item itself, but is there any other underlying things? You can pull out your functional medicine hat and put it on. Did you have poor sleep? Did you decide to skip caffeine that morning and it's a relatively new practice for you? Did you get in an argument with a friend on your way to work? Whatever it is. Are you wearing two mismatched socks? Or maybe the tag on your shirt is annoying you. Whatever it is, that could cause this sort of a simmering pro-inflammatory state, which can affect the triggers and how they're perceived in your body, in your limbic system. I believe our goal as practitioners is to create a nourishing place for our patients to come to get answers, to learn how to be healthier, to let their guard down and find safety. And what we're doing is really sacred work. We are calling upon all of our own passions, our own creativity, and delivering medical care in new ways. We're breaking out of the system as catalysts, and we are helping our patients see a better future. So we're meeting each other as two humans that can both be triggered. And it's okay to admit that. We can be that role model for patients to help them see how to work with that limbic system, because that informs the rest of your body and will also help them be more successful in any treatment plans that you give. So in conclusion, let's talk about 4 ways, depending on your Catalyst archetype, which if you haven't taken the quiz yet, please go to drlarasalyer.com/create. And you will be able to take this quiz. It's a free quiz that gets you one of 4 archetypes. Now, I know we are all parts here. You will have days when you might feel more like a reflective river, days you might feel more like a fervent flame. But the idea is When you know your dominant archetype, then you are able to better see and understand where you might need some more support. So I have my notes here, and let's talk about the fervent flame first. Okay. So common triggers of a fervent flame. Now, if you're a fervent flame, you know, you take action, you kind of have this energy that can come and then go, and you get excited about ideas and execution, and you have a lot of energy. Um, so a common trigger for you might be feeling ignored. You're not seen for this contribution and energy. Maybe you feel unappreciated or stalled in whatever you're doing. And your default reaction will be to overwork or burn brighter, shall we say. You might overcommit. You might try to people please in order to get that, kind of recognition for your work. So your growth will be to pause before saying yes to something. That's going to be a huge challenge for you, but I really encourage you to try, because discomfort does not mean disconnection. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be valued. You don't have to say yes to everything that's asked of you. You can choose yourself, and you can burn energy more clean and pure if you absolutely are aligned with everything that you're doing. Okay, now let's move to the wise wind. If you're a wise wind, right, you have lots of ideas and wisdom, but also you can be prone to feeling scattered. It can be hard to contain all these ideas, right? And so a common trigger for you might be lack of freedom. You need that freedom to get these ideas. So if you feel boxed in or micromanaged by somebody, that can be a huge trigger for you. And it can make you feel like you need to stretch your wings and fly. And so your default reaction, you might be tuning out, jumping ship. You might say, I don't want this anymore. You might be a serial job hopper, or you might start something in your business and quickly just stop because it's not working, and you're frustrated, and your ideas just aren't taking root because you're really not giving them a chance. So your growth practice is to sit in the structure and let your idea come to fruition. Follow this idea through all stages of discomfort. The creative process is not guaranteed to be successful or brilliant. You have to sit with that discomfort of thinking, ooh, I'm not sure this is a good idea, but you push past that and you keep working on it incrementally and watch it go to fruition. If you're abandoning ideas before they even have a chance, this is a great practice for you to try. Okay, third, reflective river. If you're a reflective river, you tend to be empathetic, very free flowing and flexible, which can also lend itself to some structure and instability, but really you absorb energies around you. And that can be a wonderful superpower and also a heavy anchor. So your common triggers are conflict, criticism, someone else's disappointment. You don't like that. And your default reaction in those circumstances might look like withdrawing, right? Or internalizing self-blame, saying it's something you did. And so then you stir up in a whirlpool of introspection of how can you fix this? And so your growth practice is to just stay present in tough conversations. Okay. If you find yourself thinking, oh, what did I say? What did I do? It's me. Calm waters. Just stay present. You can be soft and steady and just stay there, mindful, and imagine that you're just sitting in a very serene pool of water, that you don't have to keep stirring the pot and wondering what you did wrong. Finally, Resolute Rock. If you're a Resolute Rock, I see you, I get you. We love taking action, but we're also kind of firm, right? We feel structured. We have a plan. And when things don't go according to our plan or what we would like to say, when we're out of control, we don't like that either. So we tend to break down. It's like a house of cards, right? So a common trigger for us would be feeling out of control or not needed, because we've got great ideas and we make them happen. And we certainly have steps A through F, but you don't want to take my steps. So I feel vulnerable and shaky. That's how a Resolute Rock would respond. They would clamp down. They would then double down on their micromanaging. They would overfunction. They would suppress themselves in order to really make sure everyone else saw the work that they had put into this plan. And so our growth would be to sit in that vulnerability, right? To be more transparent to your team and to say, okay, I don't need to fix everything. What are your ideas? to relinquish a little bit of that control would be good for the Resolute rocks. These discussions on triggers aren't just good for breaking sugar habits or, the ways that we interact in the world. They can really be instrumental in how we show up as a partner, as a parent, how we lead teams, how we design our schedule and become time alchemists so that we can carve out those things that we want to do in our calendar. I mean, we deserve to have a work-life masterpiece that lights us up so we're flourishing. And a big part of that is making sure that we are doing things that unleash our optimal creativity. And that's what this is about in the Catalyst way. So I'd be curious to hear if you have any triggers, funny, witty, or even just white knuckling triggers that you just can't seem to get past. I'd love to hear them below. Comment them below so we can talk. And I'd love to hear what kind of archetype you are. And if you have any practices that have helped you lengthen that time from trigger to reaction, I'd love to learn those tools. We could all use a great toolkit to help us with our triggers. So in the end, remember, triggered? Good. Stay there and feel it and see if you can lengthen that time. Until next time, keep coloring outside the lines and practicing that sixth vital sign of creativity. But before we go, I want you to remember the one catalyst question. What are you avoiding? And what might change if you could let yourself feel it for 90 seconds or longer? Try that practice and let me know, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to The Catalyst Way, where we clear the chaos and create space to flourish in medicine and life. If today's episode lit a spark in you, your next step is to go take the Catalyst Archetype quiz. It's fun, free, and freakishly accurate. Go to drlarasalyer.com/create. In less than 5 minutes, you'll uncover your burnout risk, your creative strengths, and work rhythms that energize you. Because it's not about finding a perfect plan, but rather flowing with the one that fits you. Go to drlarasalyer.com/create. And remember, teeny shifts create massive impact. So keep coloring outside those lines.